Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final session of the virtual Vermont Mentoring Symposium. Thank you for bearing with us on Friday afternoon here. I'm Benji Thurber, the Communications Director with Mentor Vermont, and I am going to be leading this final session, which is the first look at the Vermont Mentoring Hub, which is a new system that we're launching this fall that is designed to be an interactive online space of gathering, networking, and sharing of ideas and resources for youth mentoring programs in Vermont. So I'll start by just briefly going over the agenda for the session today. I'm going to give you kind of a history of the system and why we decided to bring this concept of Vermont and to our program community, do a little bit of a walkthrough of the system, and then we're going to get to the fun stuff. And I'm actually going to have everybody who's on the session today participate in logging into the hub and testing it out for yourselves. And so we're going to have a little bit of an interactive activity partway through here. And then we're going to finish things off with a discussion of different ways that we can utilize this new system together and allow time for all of you to ask Chad and I questions and answers about the system as well at the very end. And so without further ado, I'll get right into the overview of the Vermont Mentoring Hub. I'll start by just giving you a little bit of history. Chad told me to keep this brief, but I will just give you kind of an overview. So the Mentoring Hub is actually a national system that's coordinated by Mentor National, designed with the purpose of connecting mentor affiliates like Mentor Vermont more closely with each other and also with Mentor, and making it easier for all of us to share news and resources across the network. And it's been filling a need that we have within the affiliate community been asking Mentor for years. And it's replaced static systems of communication that we've had with Mentor, like doing individual emails, listservs, and things like internal newsletters, with a more interactive way for all of us to communicate with each other in real time. And so, as I said, I'll keep this brief, but I do want to just briefly show you a couple of examples of things that really benefited us from having this system nationally. So I'm going to hop over to my web browser here. The first example I wanted to give relates to just the situation all of us were in at the onset of the pandemic. And with all of the information that was kind of swirling around about the various federal bills that were being put out there for relief and stimulus, Mentor National did a really good job of compiling all of the information about what was going into the CARES Act, and specifically the information related to the payroll protection program and how that related to youth serving organizations, how people could apply, and just where to get all the information that was needed. And it was a great way for all of us at the mentor affiliate level to be able to take that and then bring it back to local mentoring programs who are eligible to apply for those loans. And also, because this came in the form of a discussion forum set up, like we were able to actually have different, instead of like just having one static email, we were able to have a dialogue with Mentor and be able to like ask questions, and then have everybody across the network be able to see the answers when Abby, who is the advocacy lead at Mentor, would get back to us with information. So it was just a great way to, like, in a situation where things are happening really quickly, to be able to get that information out and all be interacting with each other and figure out what to do next. The other example I wanted to touch on as well was, and this is more related to my communications and marketing work with Mentor Vermont, in terms of kind of wanting to share what Mentor Vermont has done during the pandemic with our supporters and with donors. We wanted to be able to, to pull together like a one-pager or some sort of short document that we could share across the network and on social media. And what I was able to do was we had a discussion forum going where people who are doing similar work in other state affiliates actually shared their templates for creating infographics. So I can show you, I was able to see what Mentor Nebraska and Mentor New York had put together. And really, like, because they were willing to share that information and like offer it up as a template to the network, that saved me a couple hours of staff time of being able to envision what this type of document could look like. And so it was just great to have something to start with so that we're not all doing duplicative work, but that we're building off of what we're doing together across the network. So going back to the Vermont Mentoring Hub. So the Vermont Mentoring Hub is really like a specially designed subsection of the larger National Mentoring Hub that's designed just for Mentor Vermont and for mentoring programs in Vermont. And I wanted to just kind of give like a brief history of sort of our thinking about this project so you kind of understand the thought process here before really delving into the system itself. And so when Chad and I talk about the work that Mentor Vermont does, and I think programs refer to us in this way sometimes too, we think of Mentor Vermont as a hub of resources for mentoring programs. And so that term is pretty familiar to us. And so while I think we do a really good job of convening programs at our statewide events, so through the Symposium and also through our Mentoring Month celebration, we also do a lot of compiling and curating content and pushing it out to the field through things like our newsletter. And we've also been sending out weekly program emails since the onset of the pandemic as well. And this is a great, great resource when we have things that we want to share, like news, events that are related to Mentor Vermont. But it at the same time also requires us to be a middleman in sharing programs information. And so we get a lot of things over the course of the week with mentoring programs wanting to share information too. And we are, sort of placed in the role of being a gatekeeper in a way for sharing those resources. And so one of our goals as an organization actually is to increase the connectedness of mentoring programs to one another across the state and to not just rely on us to be, as I said, that gatekeeper for sharing resources and providing support, but to have that connection to one another as well. And to be able to find a way to do that through our role, to really be that true hub. And so when I think of current or past systems that mentoring programs in Vermont are using to interact with one another, I think of email listservs, like for example, the Champlain Valley Mentoring Network, which is a really very active mentoring program group that does a lot of work collaboratively together. They have an email listserv, but there's no way through that format to effectively organize conversations or really to direct content just to the people who need to see it. It's always going out to the entire list. So things can easily get buried or become almost like spam to people who it's not relevant to. And it's also often hard to track down things later, and you're always ending up having to comb through various email threads. So the idea with the hub is to connect mentoring programs, allow them to share resources with one another, and really to be able to direct that and curate what content do you want to see, and really be able to look and access resources from your peers too. And so this also can be a way still for Mentor Vermont to be able to share content that we want to get out to programs. And you'll see in a minute, but there's a resource library in here. And there are also various other ways through the system that we can do this. But we can share video content, images, things like training materials from the Symposium. As Jenny was asking about before, we have the video recording of the keynote address from earlier in the Symposium as well. And really, one thing I want to just hit on before we dive into the system is that this is intended to be an internal system for the Vermont Program Network and Mentor Vermont. So some content that is in here will make sense for us to post publicly on our website for everybody to access. But other content is also just meant for us to be viewing internally within the program network. And so I'll also just say quickly, it's not intended to be a replacement for confidential conversations, even though it's only an internal audience. But I think one thing that we really found that is successful um, at the national level with the Mentoring Hub is you can just throw a question out to the field and people will respond and give you answers to it. So Chad is often fielding, very specific questions from an individual mentoring program, but to be able to have a space where somebody could post that and everybody in the program field could see it and then be able to respond to it, really could streamline the process and make it less of just Chad having one conversation with one program, but anybody who that content is relevant to can participate in the dialogue. So without further ado, I'm going to get into actually going into the system and just briefly walk you through the different sections. But I'll give you just a quick overview of how to access the hub. And so you'll see this address, this web address here. It's the hub.mentoring.org. That's where you're going to want to go to log into the system. Mentor Vermont's also going to have a web page up. It's going to be mentorvt.org/hub, where we'll also have a direct link to log in as well. Everybody on this call should have received information from Mentor about an account that I set up for you earlier this week. And so when we get into having you all log into the system a little bit later on the session, your username is going to be your email address, and then your password is going to be VT Mentoring. And what you're going to do when you log in is go to groups and click on Vermont Mentoring Hub. And so I'll show you that process in a second here. And so when you go to hub.mentoring.org, you'll end up at this Mentor login screen here that will say, welcome to the Mentor Hub. And you will enter your email. And then the password, as I said before, is VT and then lowercase mentoring. This will bring you to the dashboard for the larger Mentor Hub. And then you will access the Vermont Mentoring Hub by going over to My Groups and clicking on this link. And so this brings you to the dashboard or home screen for the Vermont Mentoring Hub. And I can quickly walk you through what you see here. And so the first thing that pops up, beside the description of the group itself, which is just sort of explaining the overall idea behind the hub and what it's intended to be, is you have a section where there's blog posts, and this is a space where Mentor Vermont can actually share larger information about news that's happening across the state. And so the example blog post we have in here right now is our recent COVID-19 response grants that we gave out in rural parts of the state. And if you scroll down a little bit further, what you'll see is on the left, recent discussions posts. So you'll see the most recent things that people have actually posted about in the hub. On the right, you'll see any upcoming events that are in the calendar here. And so we'll get to the events section in a minute, but basically that's intended for anybody who's using this to post events for other people internally to see. It's not a calendar that's posted publicly, it's just within this group. And then what we can do is if people want to have their events like posted publicly, Mentor Vermont can also post that on our website as well, if you give us a heads up. You'll see, and this is a glitch that needs to be fixed here, but you'll see that there's a list of all the members in the group here. And right now, the only thing that's showing up is the image, the headshot for each of the people here, but you should, once it's fixed, actually see people's names to the right there as well. So bear with us, as you know, this is a new system, so we're still working out some of the kinks here. So there may be things that don't quite show up as intended in a couple places as we go through.
Benji, I don't think you mentioned it, but I mean, this is also we are the guinea pigs. I mean, we sort of we're able to jump first in line so that, we're the first mentor affiliate doing this with mentoring programs in our state. And so there are going to be some things that are going to get worked out, but it also means that we didn't have to sit there and wait for, a few other states to figure this out before we open it up to you all, since we figured, especially with COVID, this is an ideal time for us to be able to figure out better ways to connect with one another. So.
Great, thanks, Chad. Yeah, so exactly. So we are, still early in the process of developing this. And so if you see things that require, editing, or you have feedback and think that something could be changed to make it more user-friendly, we're all ears, and we can definitely pass that on to Mentor as well, so that they can make changes to make this an even better system. So I'm going to start by just going to the discussions section. This is like the primary area that you're going to be accessing in the system here. And so this is where basically all the conversation and dialogue is happening. And so we have things separated out by different categories. And then within those categories, there are specific discussion topics. And so on the right, you'll see the category list. We have COVID-19, community announcements, diversity, equity, and inclusion, evaluation, fundraising, program support, public awareness, training and TA. Really, like, we've created these as just kind of our starting list, but we're definitely open to adjusting, adding, and tweaking this category list too. But this is just what we put in there to start with here. So I'll start by just going into the COVID-19 discussion section. You can see that there are a few different topics. And so one here is a storybook, an online storybook about wearing masks. It's just a resource that I shared in here that people might be able to make use of in their program. It's basically a way to talk to youth about why masks are important during the pandemic. We have different topic around how will school-based mentoring look in 2021. And so in this post here, I shared the school-based mentoring guidance letter that Chad drafted for school-based programs to be able to share within their districts and show that the role that mentors can play within the schools this year, according to the Secretary of Education. And I'm going to, well, during the activity portion of this, I'm going to have you all kind of do some searching for specific resources that might be useful to you as well. But I can go into a couple of these other sections too. And so within the training and TA, you'll see that there's more posts. So one of these posts, for example, is how to find a TA provider for your program. And one that I wanted to just quickly touch on, I'm trying to figure out where that actually was in here. I think it might have been in, let's see. Bear with me for 10 seconds here. If I can't find it, I'll move on. And you'll see that there's a filter option here where you can actually look through and search by topic or by user to try to find posts that you're looking for. Oh, that's right, it's in DEI, okay. So this is a really good example of the types of conversations that can happen here internally that could be useful to the field. And so one of our early adopter users, Pam from Twinfield, shared a resource about how to talk about all lives matter with youth, or within the school system and amongst teachers and employees of the school. And so this sort of led to a conversation here about how could we take this resource, or are there resources out there where we could use this type of information to be able to bring this down to the level of talking to mentors, but actually down to the level of talking to students and youth mentees. And I'm going to let you all do some more exploration, but you can share video content, images, and attached files in all of these different discussion threads. So I'll hop over to the members section here. This is basically just where you can see anybody who's a member of the hub, and you actually have the option to send them a private message. There's also the option to do where you can like follow a specific person if you want to just follow their posts. They have to give you permission by following or by accepting your follow. But I think more importantly, if there's somebody in here that you wanted to share resources with or had a question for, you didn't necessarily want to have it be public to everybody within the group. You could send a private message and just ask them questions. Yeah. The next section is resources, and this is a space that we're still building out a little bit, but it's basically a place where you can store different files and templates that people can download. And so some of the examples that we have in here are the guidance document that Chad created for the start of the school year for mentoring programs, our COVID response one-pager that I mentioned earlier, and the document that I was talking about before that Pam shared of how to shut down 6 common all lives matter arguments. And we're going to have different folders within this resource section. Right now, we haven't really built this out totally. So we have like a general folder, and then I have a COVID response. You can find things that are specifically related to responding to the pandemic. But this will become a much more robust section for looking for resources. Next section is we have photos that people can share. And I think I threw in a bunch of different examples here to start with, but if you don't want to invest in like the fancy, like actual backdrop that Chad has, you can copy me and you can download this Mentor Heart Zoom background. I have different versions of our logo in here. You could store, group photos from different events. I guess they look a little bit different now, so it's going to be a virtual Zoom photo. Pictures that can be shared across the network of mentors and mentees, if there's permission to share them. And then Mentor National has different like themes for each month throughout the year for their marketing. And so they have different like social media cover photos that you can use. So that, for example, you have their Facebook cover photo for back to school month for September. And so this photo gallery is set up so that Mentor Vermont can upload files here, but then mentoring programs can as well. So this is just kind of like a collection of different photos. And similarly, we have a video gallery where users can upload different videos for people to be able to utilize for their programs. And so, for example, I have the keynote from the Symposium in here as one example. I have Mentor Nationals, one of their recent PSAs that we've been sharing. And then I have a recording of the fundraising workshop that Jen Haslett did for Mentor National as a part of the collaborative mentoring webinar series. And this is a place where we can store other videos from the Symposium as well. And all of these things can also be embedded within discussion posts too, so they don't just need to live here, but this is kind of like a quicker way to just find the photos or videos that you're looking for without having to go through the different discussions. Next, we have the events section. And as I said before, this event calendar, it's not a public calendar outside of the hub. So it's really intended for people that are using the hub to just see what different programs are doing for events. I know that sometimes like it's nice to be aware of what mentoring programs are doing, but you might not want to advertise something publicly, like it might be more just for your program. but this is a place where you could share it. And then it's actually a nice way to be able to show an example of something that you're doing that other mentoring programs might be able to use for ideas or as like a template for organizing their own event. And the event that I have plugged in here as an example is our session right now. So this didn't show up as a recent event because it's a current event. And then, as I mentioned before, we have this blog post section, which is the most recent one of these. And these are always posted by Mentor Vermont. This is a way for us to like put out larger announcements. The most recent blog post will always show up on the home screen when you log in. Then we have the message section. And so this is where, as I was talking about before, you can reach out to anybody else who's a member of the group directly and have like a private message thread. So let's see. I'll just put a message to myself here. So I can show you what that looks like when I log in as myself when we are doing the group activity later. And then there's an overall search section where you actually can just put in keywords and it will pull up all the content in here, regardless of the section it's in, and give you a quick link to it. So if you wanted to look for stuff from the symposium, for example, it pulls up the discussion post on the keynote speech. It pulls up some other discussion posts, and it should also okay, I don't see it in there, but it should pull up the video as well. So I will look into why that didn't happen. But that's okay. This is a quick way though to, if there's some type of content that you're looking for, search for it here. Just come up with a keyword like symposium, youth mentoring, advocacy, whatever it is that is the keyword that you're looking for, and it will bring you right to the discussion threads that discuss it. And Chad wanted to make sure I touched on this because it's sort of a tricky subject and people's opinions vary on this widely. But you can receive as much or as little communication from the hub as you want as a user. And so I have things set up with mine right now, and this is the default setting too, to notify me anytime that there's a new forum post or a reply. And also I have it set up for notifying me of new resources or comments too, but this is the one checkbox that gets set by that gets set automatically when you become a new user. And so what this means is I get an email every single time that there's a forum post or a reply. And so that might not be what you want out of the system. What you can do is you can actually adjust this so that you receive like a digest of different things that are happening. So you can get like, and you also can do it by category as well. So it doesn't have to be for everything. You can just sign up for the things that are most relevant to you, but you can receive information on either a daily or a weekly level as well. You don't all have to be like me getting an email every single time that somebody posts something. And so at this point, I think we're ready to have us all like, you know, be done with me talking for a little bit and get you all logged into the system and playing around a little bit. So
Benji, Kimberly actually just was saying that she actually couldn't get in, and I think we might have to accept people on our end. I'm not sure. Have you? I can go in and accept people, but I just wanted to make sure. Kimberly, are you still on? And did that work for you? I was just saying, Benji, on the back end, after Jess accepts people, it looks like we need to go in and actually accept people as well.
Yeah, I thought that I did that for all of the people on the call.
It looks like I'm seeing a handful, like Susie's not in there as approved. So I can go in and do that now.
Okay, do you want to do that while I walk people through the activity?
Yes, and I will get folks in there. I will try to make sure everybody gets in right now. So if it's saying pending approval, that just means I need to get in there still. So give it another minute and then you can hit refresh.
Okay. So here's the group activity that I have planned out here. And I think Chad's actually going to have us be set up into, I believe, 2 different breakout rooms. Not sure what we're looking at for a group size, Chad.
Yeah, about 6 or 7. I got it set up and we can run it. But maybe getting everybody actually to log in again. I'm just trying to see. You mind putting the link and the password, Benji, actually just in the chat, just so we have it after we go into breakout rooms?
Oops. Yep, bear with us for a second. Technical difficulties.
I think we should. I think we got everybody in now. So I think if you're still getting a warning that you're not, I just need to find you. All righty.
All right, everyone, I just put the instructions for logging in into the chat.
So Benji, I have breakout rooms set up. And if you want to pull up your screen again there. Because once we go into breakout rooms, we will not be able to see the activity. So we might have either, maybe after we go in breakout rooms, Benji, you can cut and paste some of the stuff into the chat as well, because you'll still be able to see the chat. But for now, at least we can talk through what we're supposed to do.
Yep. And so I thought that we could take the next 15 minutes or so to just explore the system a little bit. And I came up with some prompts here for what you can do, which you can maybe pick like 1 or 2 of these things. You don't necessarily need to do all 4, but the examples of things I thought might be useful would be to see if you can track down at least 1 resource from the symposium this week that could be useful to you in your program that's in the system. And then come up with something that you would like to post about, either something that your program is doing that might be useful to other programs in the system, or a question that you have that you would love to learn more about from other people in the field. And so the last thing I had here is respond to at least 1 existing post. But I think trying to track down resources from the symposium and then coming up with content to share or a question to ask. And I'm going to let you all play around, and you can ask questions of Chad and I as you're going through, and we can help as well. But I figured we could let you all be guinea pigs for this right now too, and just see what it's like to just dive in and see if you can figure out what to do.
So Benji, how long do you want to do here? Do you want to do 10 minutes since we're running, or 15? What do you?
Let's do 15.
Okay, great. So Benji, Erica from UCS is going to need help. I didn't see her in that.
She must not have signed up for the presentation.
So I'm going to let her, Erica, when I send everybody into groups, I'm going to set it up so you can go back to the main room. Actually, Benji.
Okay.
You know what, Erica, never mind. I'm going to keep you in my room and we'll figure it out.
And I could use Kaya's email because I went for Kaya.
Oh, if you want for Kaya, I can set you up for Kaya right now.
Okay.
Kaya's in here, so then I'll allow you to do it, and then we can get you set up later.
Thanks.
All righty. Everybody else seems to have access? Mine says pending approval. Lori. I will get you in there, Lori. Sorry. Here you go. I just hit approve on you as well just now. All right. Anybody else not seeing access in? And if so, in the breakout rooms, you can tell Benji and I, and one of us can help you with it. But we'll do breakout rooms now, and you all can start playing around with it more. And Benji, if you can throw those things in the chat, that'd probably be helpful as well.
Yep.
All righty. See you all in a few.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this is the time to start playing around with things here. And, you know, definitely feel free to do what Benji put up there. Feel free to play with other things and just explore. but we figured this would be a good time for you all to have some time to just to mess around with it with a little bit of support if you're running into things and you're curious what's going on with it. I know Benji probably mentioned this as well. I was sort of hopping back and forth doing things there, but I mean, the system's only going to be as good as we make it and as engaging as we do with it. And it's definitely taken me some time to figure out how to utilize it with Mentor National. And I know that we breezed over it, but I think taking home that the communication, you know, like I have this as my homepage when I log into my web browser right now, but the daily digest is sort of how I get pinged. I'm like, oh, I should check this because that topic is of interest, and it comes right into my email. So it's sort of nice that it still flows into my email without spamming my email. But if your settings are set up wrong, it can feel like you're getting an email for every single thing. So we can always adjust it if need be. But so yeah, feel free to go. And
So Chad, how do I do this without closing Zoom?
so if you click on that link, Zoom will sort of keep on running in the background.
If I click on that link, that was in the chat box, you mean?
In the chat box, yep. And then log in to the system. Your web browser will be open, but Zoom will keep on running in the background. So you might not be able to see my face, which worse things have happened, but you'll be able to hear my voice still.
I'm not seeing the chat box even.
All right, well, we can get you there too. At the bottom of your screen, Nancy, are you in Zoom?
I am.
So at the bottom, when you bring your cursor down to the bottom of your screen, do you see some options on the bottom there?
I don't.
Here, Nancy, can you actually see me? Because I'll move my webcam and see if I can actually bring you. So look at my screen.
I can see you, yes.
All right, so we're going to go like screen share in a different way. So on the bottom of my screen, when I move my mouse, I have different options down here. Do you have anything like that on the bottom of your screen?
No.
Interesting. All right, well,
Wait,
I will
how do
just...
wait.
I think I just showed you all how messy my desk is. That's a bad idea.
All right. So I want to go into chat.
Yep.
And just click on that link. Okay.
Click on that link, and then your login is your email, and your password is capital VT and then lowercase mentoring, all one word, and that will get you into the system.
Okay.
Sarah, are you in?
Yeah.
Great. Everybody else is in as well. And we're going to have more training on this. I mean, I think this is just sort of getting everybody introduced to it. We'll send out links to everybody and get everybody approved in the system on Monday that isn't here. So if you have other coworkers that need to get in.
It seems pretty user-friendly.
Yeah. This is the second iteration. We actually had a former one with Mentor National. It was rough. And so they actually really dedicated some funding to this and have an outside entity and really are digging in. And it will get smoother as it goes on. As I mentioned, like we are the guinea pigs because we were able to, pull some strings and say we wanted it in first. And we're also, I mean, it helped that we're a small enough state that they wanted to try it with a state affiliate that was small enough that it wasn't going to be like 500 users. It was going to be more like 50 before things got ironed out.
Okay, Chad, I'm in.
You're in. Beautiful, Nancy.
And then what was the next thing we were supposed to do?
So Benji was looking for us to do, I'll pull up, you know what, I actually can share, let's see, I'll put those things in there. I know Benji was trying to put chat in and maybe it's not showing up. I mean, the general vibe is just, explore, but I think that there were certain things that Benji was trying to have us do sort of a treasure hunt here. And I will put those, I'll copy those things in the chat in a second here.
Okay.
I mean, another aspect too is we're always conscious when we add another login, like another portal, like beyond the database and your own email. And that's something that I think we're conscious of, but we felt that this was something that was going to be a value add that was worth the headache of having another login.
So I think we were supposed to click on one of the topics, right?
Yeah, so group activity, here we go. All right, let's see, chat window. So there's the, do you all see that chat that just popped up? If you
Okay.
have, so that's 1, 2,
So I picked motivation and interviewing.
great.
And now what am I supposed to do with it?
Oh, let's see, find one resource. I'm actually learning two. That was just sort of making sure that you know how to navigate to find that, Nancy.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can, if you like, you could comment that. I feel like you've been someone who's been talking about motivational interviewing for a while, at least with me.
Have I?
So, isn't it? No, you've been talking about growth mindset for a while.
Growth mindset, yeah.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy that presentation.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, as she's a good presenter over Zoom. Nancy, I did share your story today during the last session about how you had a school actually reach out to you for help contacting students because you actually had you were more in touch with them than the school was. When
Yeah,
people thought
well,
that was pretty impressive.
one of the comments that I could have made was that parents' telephone numbers often change
Mm-hmm.
because if they buy, it depends on the phone and the phone service that they buy.
Yeah.
And if their minutes run out on the phone, when they pay for more minutes, sometimes their phone number gets changed,
Mm-hmm.
but they never let anybody know that their phone number has changed. So that's another reason why it's very difficult to reach families.
Yeah. So then, yeah, I mean, the next one was just sort of, if you have something you want to share now, you always can share that now. Anybody have any questions or anything that they're running into any roadblocks?
Seems pretty straightforward.
That is what we're hoping to hear.
No, I just pasted a motivational interviewing ORS picture in that post,
Great.
just so people, it's easy. It's easy to use.
That is the goal.
What's that?
I don't know, but something sounds yummy.
Yeah. So how, oh, I see, download.
And this system prefers like Control V, Control C. It seems like.
Oh, versus like you can right click. I mean, depending if you have a Mac or a PC, right clicking, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it definitely. mean, the other thing too that I find, I mean, one of the things Benji mentioned, I really am excited about this, is that it allows for programs to really just communicate with one another. And I mean, I'm often, someone switches at an organization or something happens, they get left off an email list. And even with the weekly emails we've been sending out, you know, it's a one way, it's not as collaborative as I really believe that mentoring should be in the state, with you all just learning from one another, since you are, I mean, we're passing along what we hear from you, but you really hold the knowledge of how to do this work the best. And so being able to go directly to the source of that information, I think is going to be huge.
So I have a question, and this may be a little too detailed, but if you have something that you'd like to post that's like an event or an interesting article, would it be more appropriate to put it in the discussions or in the resources?
So you can, if you have like in a document, I think it's always good to put it in the discussions in the appropriate thread, because that's where people are going to find it, and that's how you can find it later. You always can attach a document in there, but you also, and this I need to check with Benji, I know you also can put it in the resources. I'm not sure if it automatically goes to the resources section as well.
Right, that was my question too. If we just throw it in discussions, is somebody moderating and pulling
Yes.
that and putting them into resources? As
Yeah. So Benji's going to be the moderator for this. I mean, by all means, I think we'll come up with some more community norms, like please do this. But I think if like you posted it and you weren't sure, like Benji would be pulling it out and trying to curate things as well.
Yeah, I think having some sort of quick document about the norms for using this would be helpful, because I just from experience, I know that sometimes things like this inadvertently get jammed up with a lot of junk.
Mm-hmm.
Not on purpose, it just sort of happens because everybody's thinking of it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, no, that is our intent. And I think Benji, I mean, along with this and this recording we'll be putting together some template and some information. And the great thing too is that we have someone whose job at Mentor National is to manage the national version, and she's our go-to for support on this. And so she's given Benji and I some training on like what it takes to make this effective over the 6 months of them using it. And so we definitely can provide that as well. And the other great thing I think that we haven't done as much in here is that, like, if I know, say we're putting together, you know, someone's looking at creating a new logo for their program, and I'm like, well, Susie has an awesome logo. Like, you should talk to Susie about how she created hers. Like, I can just reply to their post about, I'm trying to create a logo, and just tag you. And then you'll automatically get notification, and it'll be pinging you being like, oh yeah, I should probably get in the hub and respond to that person now, because someone called me out as someone who has knowledge, which is often how I get pulled into conversations on the national one.
So Chad, I have a question. I'm on notifications.
Yep.
How do I make sure it's just once a week?
Yeah, so if you, let's go into notifications. So if you're in notifications, actually you should go, let's see, that might be, I think what we might want to do is go to your account. So clicking on the arrow next to your name, if you go to my account, and then that's where you're going to see, if you go to notifications now, are you in your account, Nancy? I can share my screen and show you if you want.
Yeah, I am.
All right, so if you go to notifications then, or subscriptions, go to subscriptions.
Wait. Oh.
So the fourth option across, and you'll see you can have instant, daily, weekly, or none. You can really customize what you get on that. And then notifications, similarly, you can see, you can get notifications if someone, like I have mine set up to someone emails me privately, I get a notification. If someone invites me to an event, I get a notification. And it may take a little bit of figuring out where it is. I just wanted to make sure that folks came out of this knowing that, like, if it's not working, don't give up. We'll help you figure out how to make sure it's not leaving you with spam.
Okay. I just need to save it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Go ahead.
We're all saying we're going to get punted in 15 seconds, but go for it.
No, will it automatically go back to where we're supposed to be, or do we have to?
Oh, for the other room? No, you'll just get pushed. Everybody's going to get pushed back to the main room in a second.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you, and everybody else on the call too for being guinea pigs for us with this today too. We're kind of putting you on the spot by having you dive right into the system on the call. Let's see, so do we have everybody back?
Everybody that didn't have to run is still here with us. No one's sitting in a waiting room wondering where they are. Put it that way.
Perfect. So I think for the last part of the session, Chad and I just wanted to talk a little bit about just kind of brainstorming some ways that we can utilize the hub, and then have it really be kind of a dialogue and allow you time to ask us questions as well. I know that we did that a little bit during the group activity, but just to kind of continue the conversation. So I'll just run through, I had a couple examples here of things that Mentor Vermont can utilize the hub for to get information out to programs and to interact with you all. As you saw from the activity, we can share additional resources from online trainings and from the symposium, things like that, that we might not necessarily be able to or want to share publicly, but are really useful to share within the program network. So it makes more sense to put things like that here for programs to access as opposed to publicly on our website. It's a good place to be able to provide social media kits for things like National Mentoring Month, so people can easily download files that they can use to be a part of the campaign and just easily be able to share stuff. And then also really it's like a place for us to be able to share things that are not really finalized and ready for public view, provide updates that aren't necessarily public yet, but we want to let programs know, and just be able to have conversations about things that we're working through that we're not ready to like put out there to the world yet, but we need to be able to talk through, and it's an opportunity for us to talk through together. And then I had some just ideas for what mentoring programs can share. Some of this came up during the activity too. There's resources, training materials, just ideas like asking questions out to other programs about challenges that they're facing, and just really try to get advice from other people doing the same work. So just the idea of like having like a peer network to draw from, being able to access different training application, just different templates that programs have so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And also just having an organized way to have discussions on specific topics and then be able to revisit it later and really be able to access it in a way that doesn't require kind of like combing through all your old emails to find different things. Chad, do you have anything to add to these bullets here before we kind of throw that to the rest of the group?
I'm all set.
All right, so I guess this is just a general kind of call for questions. So if anybody wants to jump in, if anything has sort of piqued your interest or is burning a hole in your brain after doing the activity and seeing the rest of the session today, feel free to unmute yourself and throw it out there.
Hi. I'm being engulfed by the sunlight that has finally come out. I see myself glowing on the screen. We have something very similar to this for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I will say it's awesome. And I think everyone's going to love it because it's super fantastic to be able to go to some spot and say like I need a social media policy or whatever, and you can see if someone else already made it, and then you can just make it your own. I think that's the most valuable piece of this type of workspace, because it can cut down everybody's time searching for stuff and working on things. So I would encourage everybody to share whatever you can on this because it's super, super helpful.
Benji, we had one question just of like who's curating, who's like highlighting your role during this, but also like if there's going to be some type of like community norms that get put out that are out there for folks to understand, like if you post something here, you should also attach it as a resource and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. That's not something that we have come up with yet, but I think that we can probably definitely talk to Mentor about that, because I know that they have policies in place for the larger Mentor network, and something that we can probably draw from to come up with our own like policies and community norms. But I think in terms of curating things, I see our role at Mentor Vermont as being more of like, if we need to help organize things at certain points because they're not in the right spot, that's one thing. But I think we want to get out of the role of being a curator so much as like letting programs be able to have like an organic dialogue about different things, and realize that this is a safe space where we're working through things together. And when we share resources, they might not be complete. They might not be necessarily something we want to share with the rest of the world, but it's a space where we can figure that out together.
So I have a question. Oh, am I muted?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. I would like to share some of the symposium presentations with members of my board.
Mm-hmm.
Can those presentations be downloaded?
Yes, they can be. And the way that the presentations that like the actual slides for the presentation webinars can be downloaded as files. The videos that you access through here are all going to be through, at least on our end, we're sharing through YouTube. And so they're private links that can only be accessed if somebody has the direct link to it.
So where can we find those links?
So I will share those in the discussion thread about the symposium. I'm going to upload all the recordings we have for the formal workshops this week,
Okay.
and any other materials and notes that we have for any of the sessions as well.
Thank you. It's a lot easier to show them than to try to explain it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just being conscious of time here, Benji.
Yep.
Anything else before we?
Does anybody else have any other questions before we wrap things up here? As Chad pointed out, we're just over the 3:30 mark right now. I'm sure people are itching to get their weekend started.
I have one question. If we have a staff member that didn't attend this, how do we request for them to gain access?
That is a great question. We're actually going to be emailing information out early next week on how to get the rest of the mentoring program field up and running on this. And so I will share that with you very soon.
All right, thanks.
And it will take, it's going to take a little bit of, it might take a day to get them actually access, just because they need to get approved by Mentor National, by Jess, who runs it, and then we need to go in and approve them as well. But once that clunkiness is out of the way, then it's good to go.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you. This was really helpful.
Thank you very